Hi, my friends out there in cyberspace. It's your friend Trey again. I didn't really want to do it, but I got to make this follow up because they put it right here on the cover. We apologize on their pride. So the idea, of course, um, I believe the Huna philosophy that my opinion is subject to change, but one of the ideas I've had is you can have the letter group. The idea is a fake ID. You can be identify as whatever you want as long as there's no children in the end. Make up your gender. Just as long as you don't reproduce, that's the main thing. If I had to identify as one of these things, what would it be? The intersex. I am both genders on the inside. In a fallen or disabled state, I would say I am a sexual atheist. I don't even believe sex exists, at least if I don't leave Santa Cruz or become 100% enlightened if I stay. And they call them breeders, breeders, those who reproduce around Santa Cruz. My friend Dr. Bruce Lipton, one time I met him in the health food store, and he lightly put his hand on my shoulder, and he told me the Jesuit priest said, "Give me the first 3 years of the life, and I'll make the man." Um, I have no children. I'm a man boy learning to respect all beings. I'm a hetero asexual. I am an exploding, the uber narcissistic, goddess worshipping anti nanotech brain, non-hierarchical, one loving, anti-archontic archer, anti-life, pro Christ, sunshine worshiper. So Pride 2023 says we apologize. Page 4. So apparently the interim editor, that was his last hurrah to um, publisher's note. To borrow from Socrates' apology, the unexamined publication is not worth publishing. Last week, Good Times issued an apology for a letter to the editor that unfairly characterized a drag story time event and members of the LGBTQ plus community. Its publication bypassed our normal review process and violated our policies against anonymous letters and hate speech. I have spoken with one of the performers, to Races Y Carino and Races E Carino, and to leaders of local organizations to personally apologize and to listen to concerns expressed to representatives of the LGBTQ plus community with whom we stand. We apologize unequivocally for granting a request for anonymity, for allowing this letter to appear, and for the hurt it caused. We spent the past week reflecting and implementing more thorough pre-publication review to ensure that harmful stereotypes and anti-drag hysteria are not reinforced. Montana this month passed a poorly drafted and harmful law that mischaracterizes and outlaws story readings of the type that the local letter writer opposed. Santa Cruz cannot be a haven for that kind of misguided thinking. Good Times and its associated publications have historically been at the forefront of the movement to advance inclusivity and will continue to do so. We are committed to fostering a safe and welcoming community for all. Our training and guidelines for editors in our publishing group will be to improve and ensure that we do our best job for our readers and communities. In addition, please join me in welcoming Brad Cava, an experienced editor, publisher, and journalism educator to our company, who edits the Santa Cruz monthly newspaper Growing Up in Santa Cruz for children, and he recommended all the guidelines the whole way through, of course, and he answered the call to help us publish this week's issue, keep Good Times on track, and ensure that a fitting tribute was incorporated to welcome attendees at this year's Santa Cruz Pride. Brad will head the local editorial team until we complete the process of hiring our next editor. Happy Pride. Dan Polcrano, publisher. Someone who, of course, totally toes the line. Letter on May 17th, 2023. Good Times published a letter to the editor, Woke Up Call. We found this letter contained homophobia and transphobia targeting our LGBTQIA2S plus community. Now, see how they added a 2 in there? What is the 2? This is the first time there was a new number added. Is that humans 2.0? Just in the time when I thought I had it made, it seemed the taste was not so sweet. When these children that you spit on, they're quite aware of what they're going through. They're immune to your consultations. At least 20% of them would rather listen to me and listen to the truth than you, because they really ascertain and discern the truth of freedom. They're quite aware that they're going through changes. Turn and face the strain of changing. Pretty soon, lies can't and the deceiver can't steal everything. Changes. Turn and face the strain of changing. The time may change me, but there's no such thing as time when I'm free. On May 17th, 2023, Good Times published a letter to the editor, Woke Up Call. We found this letter contained homophobia and transphobia targeting our LGBTQIS2S plus community, specifically the families of color in Watsonville and Pajaro. The rhetoric used was to encourage violence by spreading ignorance and hate speech to dissuade families from attending a drag story time event hosted at Races E. Carino Family Center of Watsonville. We are 2 drag performers from this event. Zinistra. They even said their legal name, Jorge George Gillian, and Rogue Roulette, or Zach Keith. When we discuss drag artistry, that's pretty courageous, I'll admit. They're courageous to put their legal names there. George Gillian and Zach Keith, or Zinistra and Rogue Roulette. When we discuss drag artistry, we're not talking about cross-dressing, giant, overgrown, makeup-covered men. We're talking about an unapologetic expression connected to a rich and beautiful history. Drag is about sharing the art of gender in a way that is accessible to everyone. Good Times released an opinion that does not match the values of Santa Cruz County. And so we're here to remind you of those values in our call to action. We ask our local businesses for their support in our call to action. The family who runs Races E. Carino has truly demonstrated the meaning of being an ally to both the local and queer community, and for that we cannot express enough gratitude. Their allyship is what reflects the true values of the LGBTQIA2S plus community and the model for our call to action. The discomfort that can emerge in questioning what role you play in this discourse is the same discomfort LGBTQIA2S plus folks experience every day, while homophobia and Human 2.0 stereotypes and transphobia continue to have space in our community. And so we implore you to be public in your opposition to homophobia and transphobia. The anonymous author attempted to create harm by being a mother who cared enough to try to protect children from us. The anonymous author attempted to create harm in our community by spreading ill-informed beliefs while using their children as an example of malice. On the contrary, it has galvanized our community. We hope that throughout this process, the author has learned something from her ill-informed views and her family, and we hope the man boy making this video has learned something by trying to spread awareness by making videos about space fence. Now you're going to have it for weeks on end, just for that. We love you to feed on that loosh. Drag Story Time was an incredibly successful event in Watsonville, with over 70 plus family members coming to read. This was all these children and grown people volunteered. Like I say, I'm behind the enemy lines here by the numbers. They volunteered. Okay, over 70 plus family members coming to read children's stories together in solidarity. The children laughed and learned with us as artists. Plenty of pictures show the joy that filled that space. So I'm sure they have, pictures you can find of the event. We value the people. We value the people of our community, not the harmful words of someone who finds comfort in hate. The children who got to see this visibly, who got to see themselves represented, and who were told they were allowed to be whoever they wanted to be, are the people we are celebrating. We are disappointed to see Good Times release such a hate-filled letter, and we want to share with the community we are part of the ongoing conversation about how we can heal together with sustainable actions. And we're going to make sure that interim editor is released from duty for that. The country we live in is rapidly using the fear and violence against the queer community to gain power over our well-being, expression, and joy. The country we live in is rapidly using the fear and violence against the queer community to gain power over our well-being, expression, and joy. And as drag artists, we refuse to allow that to permeate the inclusive environments we continue to create. We cannot justify such grossly ignorant events, but we can choose to walk our values as a queer community. We are colorful, we are vibrant, we are loud, we are proud, we are resilient, we are freedom, we are authentic, we are love. Okay, where do you sign me up to be a drag queen here? Those who choose not to be a part of that will live a life of dullness. Oh man, okay, I've got to become a drag queen. I'm convinced. But that is not the path we walk. But that is not the path we walk together. The path of dullness. Celebrate us at Santa Cruz Pride and bring together and begin the process of healing together. We proudly sign our names, Zinistra and Rogue. So, man, I hope they all have a fun time. But any part of it that's anti-life, any part of it that brings people into the grip of the fallen, is going to have a just karmic payment. And I support people being or doing whatever they want. But as David James Rodriguez would always say every Saturday night at the weekly fires, the non-aggression principle, the harmless principle, don't do anything to hurt anyone else's body or stuff, or I would say even their soul or their spirit, and particularly children, spirit and souls, and ideally your own body, spirit, and soul. And the fallen ones, the fallen angelics who are also eugenicists, they want you to be whatever you want as long as you don't reproduce. The almighty, sacred, divine Christ beings that created this experiment of human life originally, and the beings who created this called USA, we were given freedom of choice, freedom of speech, freedom of belief, and freedom what to choose to put in our body and inject. And those who abide by that must ideally also respect the harmless principle and not hurt their body or anyone else. And that being said, I'm happy and thankful that for those who express their freedoms to be and do what they want creatively. But don't harm children, don't harm anyone else. And let's make this a better world and create a great one, my family. Love you.